Hey everyone, Daryl Keezy here, CEO of Candy Box Marketing. Just going to be starting to share my screen here. Welcome to today's webinar, Wednesday, October 13th, and we are going to be talking about the digital tsunami, that has hit digital marketing in this last bit. So let me just quickly share my screen here. And today's session is going to be covering a lot of different pieces of digital marketing that has changed in the last few months. And, if you were, let's say, buying a house in 2008 and you were trying to get a mortgage, by the fourth quarter of that year, your mortgage broker should have called you and said, hey, everything has changed and you need to make some adjustments because the entire mortgage industry changed. And Q3 of 2021, everything changed once again. And so we're going to be going over that today. Now, just for fun, I've shared this slide before on this webinar, but taking a look at 2019, this was me speaking on stage about 2020 digital trends. That's 2019 BC, that is before COVID. And then it was really interesting. Everything changed in 2020. Everything is changing in 2021, and it's continuing. And I love this quote by Mike Tyson, is that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And so that quote of pivot that we always hate talking about because it's just been overdone. I've come up with a new meme for pivot. All right. So there we got 2020, we got 2021, and now we're seeing that 2022 is on the bottom of the stairs and is trying to also get up. So our agenda for today is, first, what the heck happened? Like, what happened? If you're hearing this for the first time and you're wondering, like, why are we talking about digital marketing changes? I'm going to go over what actually happened in the last 3 months. Then I'm going to show you what's going to be happening in the next few months, which is almost terrifying for some businesses. Number two, we're going to go through assessing your impact, or the impact of these changes to your current advertising and what this means for small businesses and small mid-sized businesses. And then the third thing is looking at a way forward. So now that digital marketing has changed, how can we as business leaders respond so that we can both embrace the change and continue growing? And when we talk about this being a tsunami, it really was a tsunami, and it was a tsunami with two major waves that we know of. And we're going to see what happens in this next quarter. So the two waves were iOS 14.5 and iOS 15. So what impact did these things have on your business? Well, first off, just to let you know, Tim Cook did allude to this impact back in December of 2020. Tim Cook said, we believe users should have the choice over data that is being collected and how it is being used. Facebook can continue to track users across apps and websites as before, but it will require that consumers ask for it. Okay, so now, like if you do have an iPhone, if you're on Android, you didn't see this update, but now on iPhone, after 14.5, every time you open up an app, it's going to say, do you want to be tracked? Yes or no? Okay. Now, surprisingly, or sorry, should I say not surprisingly, out of everybody that was asked, 4% of Canadians said, sure, track me. All right, 4%. That's almost like they did it by mistake. All right. 96% said, no, don't track me. And what this means is that across platforms, so it doesn't matter what you're searching over here on the internet, it used to coincide with what you see here. Now, across platforms, we cannot track on these devices. And so I, at one point, clicked no on one of the apps, and that app was the weather app. So I opened up the weather app right after I clicked no, and I saw this ad, perfect poop in 7 days. Now, I took a screenshot of this ad, and I'm sharing it with you because I've never seen an ad like this before. The reason why I've never seen this type of ad before is that I don't have a cat. I've never shopped for cat things. I don't, have a subscription to cat magazines or cat emails or anything that it would be able to bring this together. I also have a fear of cats. Okay, so I actually don't like cats. All right, and so for the cat people out there, I'm very sorry. I understand they're very cute and your cat is probably the best and all that stuff. But I don't like cats at all. And now I'm seeing cats, and not only trying to sell me the idea of like cats, but cat food and the consistency of poop with the cat that I don't own. And I almost wanted to go back to the tracking mechanism and click no. Like I want you to track me. Please track me, because I don't want to see any more cat ads. All right, now obviously it's very hard to retroactively do that. And now we know that as marketing to Canadians, when we were doing cross-market promotions, now it's actually harder. Then 14.5 came around. Sorry, not 14.5. iOS 15 came around. And iOS 15 allowed you to create burner emails easily on your iPhone. So when you're filling out a form, it could be anything from a lead generation form to an email subscription to, I don't know, get 10% off type of discount. Instead of submitting your email, all right, so Daryl@kboxmarketing.com, I can just say, I want to just protect my mail activity here. And what it does is it inserts a burner, like a fake email address, and then anything that's sent there gets resent to me. So before, data collectors used to be able to take a look at one email address, like Daryl@kboxmarketing.com, and collect data from all these different data points and bring it together to understand what I'm shopping for. Obviously, not cat food. But now iOS 15 says, hold on a second, we're actually going to anonymize email addresses anywhere that you go, and we can still deliver those emails to you. All right, so this is going to create a huge problem long-term with marketers, where if we don't get the trust of the individual, if we don't get permission to actually know their email address, we'll never know who this person actually is. We can send them messages, but we don't know their overall track record with our company. What this also enabled Apple to do is within Apple Mail, they actually, and not just Apple Mail, but Apple Mail Viewer, they are now anonymizing IP addresses. So the IP address is like the location of your phone, your tablet, or your computer. And it lets advertisers know when are you opening things. It lets them know where you physically are at a certain point. So you can see where across the country your email is being opened. But now we don't have that data anymore, because they are anonymizing it. They're making this like a private browsing session, or even more than a private browsing session, is making all of your internet traffic through email anonymous. Along with that, the Mail app is now remotely downloading all content, which includes tracking pixels. So not to get a little nerdy on you, because I know this can be a bit confusing, but when you open up an email, there is a tiny, tiny little pixel. It's about that big. Okay, it's not actually that big, but it's really small, 1 pixel by 1 pixel, okay, of the thousands of pixels that are on your screen. And when you download it, okay, when your phone automatically downloads it, you don't know that it does that. It lets the email campaign person, or it lets the vendor know who opened it, when did they open it, where did they open it, on what device, and how, like, and how many times, even if like they could open up the email several different times. So now we don't know all this data. And so this tracking pixel is now being downloaded by Apple every single time in Apple servers. So if you're working with an email vendor and they're saying, oh, look, our open rate has gone up, that's not the case. It just means that Apple is opening your mail technically for you, like downloading all the content, sending that information back to the vendor, which now renders that completely useless. All right, iPhone users account for 50% of all email clients. So this also means that we cannot send out geo-targeted emails. Daryl, how depressing can this get? As depressing as the fact that I wasn't sharing my screen at the beginning of my presentation? Probably. Coming up in 2022, just to let you know, spoiler alert, Google Chrome is disabling third-party tracking cookies on your browser. And tracking cookies have been used for a ton of things, identifying individual users and helping advertisers track across platforms. And what Google's replacing this with is, going from looking at consumers to looking at cohorts. And a cohort is a group of 1,000 users that are very similar to one another. And so it's almost like you're grouped together with a whole bunch of these users. And so it's not tracking you individually, it's tracking you in group, which protects your information. Okay, so that's what's coming up in 2022. So a big question is, why is this happening? And why is this happening to me and my business? And I run an agency, and we depend on data to help us target the right people at the right time. So we take a look at this. And the reason why is that tech companies and governments are implementing new measures to protect consumer data and to promote privacy. So a lot of this stuff is the law catching up with new technologies, tracking mechanisms, cross-site data transfers, and we're just really looking at how do we actually protect the individual online. All right, there's a quote by Vern Harnish that says, there are no straight lines in nature or business. All right, so a lot of people say, well, if this is getting turned off, what gets turned on? Well, first, we want to understand what has actually been turned off and how do we assess it. Near the end of this presentation, I'm actually going to give you a whole bunch of different ideas of new tactics that we can implement to help still drive advertising results where some of the old ones have disappeared. So in regards to assessing the damages, so what is this going to impact? Like if I'm going to see reports, I'm working with a digital marketing agency or I'm doing it myself, what is actually going to change? So number one, your click-through ratios, your CTRs could go down. The reason why this could go down is that you're getting less targeted people, and so less people are clicking on your ads. This could impact your cost per click, either up or down. Up is not necessarily good and down is not necessarily good. We've got to evaluate this and seeing the quality of people that are coming through. For example, sometimes people say, well, I can get clicks for 10 cents cheaper. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But are you going to convert that person? Are you going to convert them into a customer? If we know less and less about customers, the chances of us converting it goes down as well too, which leads us on to our next point, which is conversion ratios. And now your conversion ratio is very simply of all the traffic that you bring into your site or your landing page or your e-com store, or whatever that is, what percentage of people convert into an actual customer? Now, as an example, that cat ad that promises perfect poop in 7 days, for me, I'm not going to click on it because I'm not a cat owner. So their click-through ratio is going to go down. And then if I accidentally click on it, I'm obviously not buying cat food, right? So my conversion ratio is going to go down, which isn't good for that advertiser, which impacts what's called the return on ad spend, ROAS. All right. And so this is directly tied to your revenue that you're making off of advertising. And this indirectly is impacted by the size of your audience. If we had less data about your audience, we have to hit a much broader group to hit those same people. So we may be actually advertising to more people. Now, in regards to email campaigns, this has also impacted how we run and automate and report on email. First off, open rates versus click-through rates are completely inaccurate. So Apple's open rate is going to be 100%. All these emails were open. Wow, nobody clicked on it. Well, that's because they didn't even open it to begin with. Number two, A/B tests no longer work on open rates. There was a time where we can send out an email campaign. It would send out a portion of that email campaign and says, whichever subject line has a better open rate, then send that winner to the rest of the people. So it's really cool. It's like live A/B testing with emails. Well, once again, with iOS, it opens every email, which is going to skew the results. Number three, email segmentation. If we're trying to segment things based on geography and say, okay, send our West Coast people at 7 a.m. and 7 a.m. across and kind of stagger the emails. Now with anonymized IP addresses, we don't know where this person is anymore. And last thing, within email automation, we used to sometimes saying, if they open the first email and they don't buy something, then let's send them another email. Well, this is not going to work anymore because we don't have accurate results. So this webinar of 13 minutes and 30 seconds of me not even sharing all these slides with you is pretty depressing. But I'm going to show you some really cool stuff that you can do to fight back against these new technologies. I love this quote by Winston Churchill. If I were honest with you, I would tell you that I kept reading it as my loading screen while playing Call of Duty for a number of years, but I'm not going to tell you that because that's horribly embarrassing. And I wouldn't admit that on a video that is recorded and being published on YouTube. Tactic number one, identify new networks. All right. So if certain networks aren't working out so well, we got to look at some other networks. Now, remember, when Apple says we are not going to have apps track your information across different websites and apps, that doesn't mean that they can't track their information within their app. So instead of saying, okay, well, we're using information across the web and then advertising here, we need to start looking at advertising platforms as silos, okay? And so some silos are doing really well, like the entire Google network. Facebook in its own right can do well within its own playground, but across apps, we are having challenges. Number one network I'm recommending to businesses these days is LinkedIn advertisements, okay? LinkedIn ads have been getting better and better over the last couple of years, and I've been known in the history to say LinkedIn ads don't really work. They've really stepped it up on their ad network. They've got really cool calls to actions and ad extensions that we can now put in there, and downloadable products and integrated with lists and a lot of really cool stuff. LinkedIn ads is a really good option these days for advertisers. Reason why, you can go after people based on the LinkedIn data set. So you can say, all right, we are looking for CEOs of companies with 50 or more employees that are in the automotive industry. And you can find those people on LinkedIn. Now, we see here, this is a LinkedIn ad from TD Wealth. I'm going to come back to this ad at the end of this presentation and show you a couple of unique things about the ad that I would personally change. Second network, and I've been saying this for 2 years now, but it is becoming more and more prevalent, is Reddit.com. Reddit is the 7th most visited website in Canada, and it is not just for young people, and it's not just for like niche advertising. Reddit is an incredible network that has a ton of content on it. And so this is an example of Tim Hortons recently getting into Reddit advertising. And why Reddit is so powerful is that it allows us as advertisers to go after individual consumer groups that have certain interests, right? So they subscribe to what's called subreddits, which are topics on Reddit that they're interested in. So this ad right here is targeted to people that are interested in gaming. So it says, hey, our gaming, we know you like to win. Want to roll, right? And they're advertising their roll up the rim. Next network is TikTok. TikTok now has 1 billion active users. Okay, 1 billion active users. TikTok has exploded over the last year. Last month, September 21, TikTok surpassed YouTube for daily time spent watching video. Okay, this is massive, all right? Do you think YouTube was big? TikTok was on a hockey stick curve upwards, and now they've passed YouTube. If you've ever thought of a video strategy, TikTok has to be a consideration now. It is not just for, teens and tweens and, kids like that. A lot of consumers are now on TikTok. Audio marketing. Audio marketing between podcasts and music. Now, with the growing, I would say, adaptation of working from home, and not just emergency working from home, but actually working from home as a new standard for a lot of industries, people in their homes are listening to things during the day. So if you're in the office, you can't just turn on a podcast. You can't just play whatever music out of your computer. It's offensive. Like, it's not very nice. If you don't have a private office, I don't know about you. I didn't have a private office. I couldn't just play whatever I wanted to play during the day. But now that I'm working from home, this is my space. So we play audio. And when we play audio, there can be syndicated ads and promotions and things like that. We actually have like as a pre-roll ad before a podcast or post-roll after. And so there is new ad space available within audio marketing to try to monetize and find your customer. Tactic number 2, identify new ad technology. All right, new ad technology is out there and it is constantly growing with these changes. The first thing we see here is programmatic. Programmatic is an advanced marketing strategy that uses automated real-time bidding that purchases ad inventory for you, allowing you to advertise to specific users in specific contexts, which results in hyper-targeted, super effective ads. It's kind of like using a laser pointer in regards to your market efforts. So how this works is these programmatic platforms, they take a look at a whole bunch of different varieties of data, and they gather it together to try to find out your ideal user. So we can target people that are reading certain blogs. And so if there's a blog about, a certain pair of shoes, and they're near a nearby shoe store, we can create a custom audience and actually advertise to those people. There's a lot of other portions of this types of advertisement that can go on within individual geography. So if I actually log in to or walk by a certain coffee shop and I'm physically there, or if I'm going around with my mobile device and visiting areas and purchasing something else, all this data can be aggregated to try to find me as an audience. There's also programmatic advertising for B2B platforms. So where we can try to find people that are looking to solve a problem, looking at different solutions, building requirements, looking at different suppliers, looking at your competitors, right? And so we can try to find the right person, the center of this diagram here, by looking at different companies, revenues, seniority level, job function, intent data if they're doing research. And so this is not just on consumer segments, this is also on the B2B front. There's a lot of different programmatic vendors out there. Notably, there's StackAdapt, there's Trade Desk. There's a lot of different platforms that go into different networks, and they are like data aggregators that bring this information together to show you what you can go after. Now, at the end of this presentation, we actually have an offering today, and this thing is one of those like today only things where we can actually take a look through programmatic ads and try to find your audience and bring you back data about your custom audiences and how we can potentially find them. We always like a new challenge. And so if you've got a really unique data set, if you've got a really unique customer and saying, okay, we're trying to find females between the ages of 30 and 40 that like pumpkin pie and that live in the Greater Toronto area, shoot us a message. And we're going to show you what we can find for that type of data set. Please don't actually use that example. Use real examples for your company that we can help you with. There's also different website technologies. Website technologies are constantly growing to actually improve conversion ratios. If your traffic is more expensive, and if it's harder to get these different audiences, then when you are actually trying to bring these people in on, let's just say on a landing page, on an offering, you need more help to get to convert these people. And so we have, the ability to launch AI, so these wonderful little robots, to try to create and serve to them the right landing page so that there's a higher chance of them converting. When they're on the landing page, we can also do stuff that is actually promoting their conversion. And so, for example, there is a platform called Hotjar that we use to actually take a look at landing pages, and we can actually play and see how a user is going through the website. How are they using it? How quickly are they scrolling? Are they reading the information? Are they clicking on those buttons? And so there's different technologies out there that we can learn more and more about your customer and just continually optimize your website so that more and more people become customers. If we take a look at the basic stats here, is that we now have less data on users. So that means there's a bit less accuracy of some of our ads. There's more ad waste. So new customers are now more expensive, which brings us on to tactic number 3, which is building and monetizing your CRM. All right. Building and monetizing your CRM. In case you haven't built the CRM or don't know what that is your customer relationship management tool. So this is anything that you're using to track your customers' data, their purchase habits, the times that you connect with them, the size of their orders, anything that you're collecting on the customer should be in a CRM tool. And that's really because every customer is worth more. And so instead of just constantly creating new customers over and over and over and over again through digital ads, we're now thinking about, okay, it's very expensive to get that new customer. So how do we nurture them to become a bigger customer, a more long-term customer? How do we increase retention? How do we, turn down customers that may not be right for our organization? All right. Now, if we take a look at this, this is data that you're now collecting, right? This isn't just third-party data. This is data that you are putting into your own system to make sure that you understand what's actually working for your users. And so taking a look at the stats here, Canadian companies are now investing in data like they never have before, right? We have 42% of customers are increasing spending of use of first-party data. So they don't want just like data from other sources. They actually want to own their own data. A lot of companies are bringing data management in-house. We're centralizing all CRM data into one repository. So for example, if you are at a bricks and mortar store and you check out using a credit card, that it goes back and feeds the information into your online account so that when you want to reorder something, it is easier. All right. As a company, big question is, are you investing in data? Are you investing in your data architecture and helping your future company, your future self, market to those people? Next item on that, which is really confusing, is that sometimes older technologies emerge when things change. And the thing that we've seen actually adjust over this last year is your email lists. Email lists are now absolutely critical for doing business because it's tied to the CRM. It's tied into your overall, like your sales pipeline, your repeat purchases and all that stuff. And so your email list and marketing automation now needs to be up to par so that you can continually market to these people. All right. So when was the last time you looked through your email list and considered, is this properly put together? Are we collecting the right pieces of data? Are all the data points talking together to give us an accurate representation of a customer? And once you have that, are you executing on that? All right. Tactic number 4. This is a fun one. This has been emerging over the last number of years, but now that algorithms are changing, now that some platforms are becoming harder to advertise on, influencer marketing has become more prominent than before. And I've talked about this before in regards to like Tesla's rollout of the Cybertruck, right? Tesla spent nothing on advertising their Cybertruck, and yet they sold 240,000 vehicles within 72 hours. All right. And their marketing tactic was a really cool stage and inviting a whole bunch of influencers to come there. Their marketing strategy rested in the pockets of their attendees on that day. When we take a look at influencer marketing, you think, okay, well, that's great for consumer segment, but I don't have a Cybertruck. We don't have Elon Musk here, and we don't have a stage with smoke machines and bulletproof glass. That's okay. There's also B2B influencer marketing. Last year, I did a series of videos with the CEO, Michael Groshmal from Atlas Care. This was just something that we didn't really think up. It was something more for Atlas Care than for our business, but it was very interesting to see our networks cross-pollinate as we did these videos. These videos, the purpose of these videos was really to talk about the success of getting over 1,000 reviews for Atlas Care, which is a local HVAC and plumbing company. And it helped them gain exposure within the marketplace and kind of open up the personality of their brand over LinkedIn. All right, so B2B influencer marketing can work just as effectively as B2C. Now, as we're rolling through all this, within the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'm also going to open it up for questions. We understand that questions about these topics are absolutely critical because there's a lot of moving pieces here. And so feel free, if you have a question, throw it in the Q&A box or throw it in the chat box, and I'm going to get to it in about 5 minutes. And those that want to take a look at all these different tactics and stuff, we're going to have a follow-up afterwards, which is a free consultation valued at about $800 in regards to looking at your custom audience for your business. Last thing we want to really leave you with, and this is very important, with all the information that we just learned, it is important to know that strategy is greater than tactics. Okay, strategy is greater than tactics. You can be advertising your heart out on LinkedIn and TikTok and YouTube and programmatic ads and everywhere that you think that your customer is. But your strategy is always going to be more important than where you advertise. And when we take a look at this, you've got two things. You've got your data, right? Looking at the stats, and you've got your message. And these two things you have to hold very lightly and understand that with data, you've actually got to look beyond the stats, right? If 1,000 people hit your webpage, but not a single person converts, it's not that, okay, well, how's the website? Is this working? Is the form working? No, is your message working? Is your offering working? Is the creative behind what you're doing attracting, engaging, and converting your users into actual customers? So when we're looking at our data, we also have to look with the messaging side by side and saying, do we actually understand who we are? Do we understand what we're trying to get people to do? And sometimes people say, Daryl, you know what, my industry is boring, or we're 100 years old, or this isn't about creativity, it's about a product. Well, I like in looking through different campaigns, I love it when ordinary products absolutely rock the advertising world. One of my favorite campaigns of this last decade, I remember where I was driving and I saw this billboard. I'm going to show it to you now, which is when Shreddies, right? You talk about an old product, okay? We've been eating Shreddies for decades, but when Shreddies came out with Diamond Shreddies, okay? The new and exciting Shreddies. If you didn't see this advertisement, I'm very sorry for you. This was one of the best ads I've ever seen. Now, what they're trying to do is obviously get people to what? Eat more Shreddies and to think about Shreddies. But Shreddies is so old. They haven't changed Shreddies at all. And so they made mockery of themselves, creating a new product out of their existing product, which is obviously just the same product. But if you missed this one, I don't know if you saw this other one, which is also really good. And that was double Shreddies, right? I've eaten double Shreddies and I didn't even know it. So once again, strategy and your message sometimes is going to blow right past your tactics. I like this next ad from Tesla. Gas, where we're going, we don't need gas. Small picture of the back of the car, a little bit of a nod to, Back to the Future and DeLoreans and all that stuff. It's actually literally quoting a movie from a gas-consuming vehicle that is not their own and went bankrupt. Okay, like you think about this is like advertising insanity, but you know what? It works. Why? Because they're going after a certain demographic, and that demographic knows Back to the Future. Okay, and this is the car of the future. So why not? In regards to messaging, we need to think, about our brands critically. Why do we exist? What is our story? What is our X factor? What is our competitive advantage? What are we saying to get people interested in what we're doing? Not like, okay, well, let's just advertise on this network and advertise on this network. The technology is a vehicle for your message to be delivered, but we've got to think, what is our message? And is our message compelling enough that people are actually going to click on it? Coming full circle here, back to this advertisement that I saw the other day on LinkedIn, I understand what they're doing. TD Wealth, they profiled me as a CEO of a company. And so they're approaching me with TD Wealth and they're saying, as a business owner, so great, they're on the right network. They know who I am. They're advertising to me. Am I going to give them my business? Well, take a look at this. First off, they launched a carousel ad, which is really cool. You can do a lot of stuff with carousel ads. There's a lot of creativity you can have with carousel ads where you just flip through one at a time. But take a look at the messaging here. There's no call to action. It's just, we're here to help. Just call us. Like, we want you to cold call a bank. And see down at the bottom here on each of these things, talk to a TD Wealth advisor, talk to a TD Wealth advisor. There's no real message here. Also, take a look at the picture. It's the same picture over and over again. Great, you have a carousel. Do you understand the purpose of a carousel ad? You should have different images here. It is literally a carousel. It is like a flip book of images. When did you ever have a photo album with the exact same image over and over and over again? Right network, right tactic, wrong message. Incorrect strategy. Take a look at Netflix. Netflix has this billboard in Hollywood. And it says, don't give up on your dreams. We started with DVDs. All right. And we see this emotional pull towards not giving up on your dreams and you as the consumer and personality and talked about their history of, oh yeah, I remember when Netflix had DVDs and look how big they are now, and being a part of that story and understanding the evolution of this major disruptor in the entertainment industry. And it's about you and them and this relationship and all this stuff. But if you were to launch a billboard in Hollywood and you're Netflix, would you just do this? No, that's a tactic, but the strategy is all wrong. Okay, there's no message there. So now I'd love to open it up to Q&A, and as you're putting in the questions here in the chat box, I want to actually, you can put it in the chat. You can also put in the Q&A thing where we're going to get to it here. I also just want to open up this. It's going to be in the chat. We are wanting to, we have access to more data than the public does in regards to advertising, network, size of audience, et cetera. And if you are running a company, so this has to be a company-based email that you're emailing us from, and you want our opinion on the audiences that we could find for you, give us a try. Here's a free consultation. So you just go to this link, bit.ly/candybox2021. We're going to drop it in the chat, so you can just click on that. And if you'll fill out this form and give us anything that you know about your current customers, okay, anything that you have an idea about to go and advertise to your audience, we're going to come back to you with a free report of how many people you can reach, the cost of doing so, where it is, what networks, and some ideas around that. Okay. This is typically, we typically do these audits for $800, but we're offering it on this webinar today, and only this webinar, for free. Okay. So feel free to head over to that link, fill out this form, and we will come back to you with a no obligation, like information, a report on your audiences and where you can find them, just for fun. Okay. Give this a test drive. But would love to open it up to some Q&A here. And I'm just going to quickly look in my my chat area. So give me one quick second here, and I'm going to start getting to your questions. Perfect. As I go down here, yes, I see everything about my slides not changing. I'm sorry about that, everybody. Great.
Hey, Daryl, I could give you a hand with that. I've been collecting the questions throughout.
Yep.
There's a lot of questions coming in, so I'm going to get right into it just so we can make the most of our time here. First question is, do LinkedIn ads operate the same as Facebook ads? I would love to know more about different ways to target on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I would say they are the most similar to Facebook ads. And so we can go after certain targets and audiences, but remember, every network is only as good as the data it collects. But LinkedIn has a lot stronger data around people's careers. Obviously, if you change your career, you change it on LinkedIn. So it is more accurate than Facebook on things like your title, the company size, reporting structure, those types of things. And so LinkedIn is technically better in some ways to profile people in regards to their careers, which is very, very helpful. In regards to the type of ads, they both have a lot of different features. It would almost take a day to kind of go through both, but I like LinkedIn has features where you're able to actually offer like ebooks and get people to download it, and that's connected to their LinkedIn email, and we can actually get messages back from people and start like some marketing automation there, which is very nifty. So I like that stuff. Great question. Yes, very similar to Facebook, different data sets that you have access to.
Hey, that's fantastic. And just a reminder for everyone, I did drop the link to that complimentary campaign strategy report that Daryl was referring to in the chat. So by simply clicking that and filling up the form in about 30 seconds, you're good to go there. And if you do have a question, there's a Q&A option at the bottom of the toolbar. And by clicking that, you can submit your question directly to me and I can read it out loud during this webinar. Daryl, my second question for you is, how would audience intelligence software, so we're talking about like AI softwares like SparkToro was the one used in this example, but you also talked about Hotjar. How would that work now that Apple updates have disrupted tracking and Google is about to follow in the same footsteps?
Yeah, no, great question. So, and I actually have that same question as well too, especially with next year cookie tracking going under. And so all these AI softwares like SparkToro, Trade Desk, they've got different technologies that are profiling people. And so they're also preparing for these changes. And so I would say it is getting more difficult for their technologies to play in the same like sandbox like they had before. And so a couple of them have been abandoning things like cookie tracking and different things that are going to be outdated soon. And so they're upgrading their technologies and data sets to kind of get around that. So it's not a straight line. It's not like they just turn off something and then turn on something else. But that is going to be questionable over the next bit. What we're seeing overall is that because individual apps like Facebook are not able to track across websites, that was part of their business model. These new AI companies, it is their entire business model. And so they're coming up with more innovative solutions than Facebook's just allow or disallow. So thank you for the question. The other question I saw that came through here from Wes is text message marketing affected by iOS 15, similar to email marketing? To be honest in that, Wes, not that I know of. There is no feature to create like burner cell phone numbers, although that sounds really cool if we could, but no. So text messaging is not impacted. And so my another recommendation, which is like, we only went through 4 tactics today of different things that we can do. But another recommendation is absolutely moving more towards getting getting people's cell phone numbers as opposed to their email addresses. May be a more effective tactic long run to make sure that you're actually getting to the end user. Now, that said, on the other side of that, text messages don't have as many tracking capabilities as email used to, right? So it's harder to see reds and those types of things because the limitations of text message. And so, but I think that diversifying and investing a little bit more in text lists and building that audience is majorly beneficial.
Just kind of going down the path of email and text marketing a little bit more. There's another question here that says that, can you share some strategies that your clients have used to build a big email list in the past?
Yeah, anything about building email lists always comes back to what are you willing to give up for your customer? And so people that like just ask for the email and don't do anything a lot about it, that's going to be a direct proportion to the type of response you get from it. So, if you look at, people will say, oh, well, email lists are dead. I'm thinking, no, you're dead. Like you're not doing enough to get those people to sign up, right? It's like, okay, well, I've got an email list there. So instead of thinking about how to get people's emails, think about how do we give our customers stuff where they want to be emailed from us? Okay, that's a much bigger question. And you look at like new services like The Hustle, right? The Hustle sends out a daily email, and people are actually paying for that, right? Now you think like, who charges in 2021 to send out their email to people? Well, they've got really good information, right? So it's all about good content. So some of our customers in the past have said, okay, there's either an insiders club, there's access to resources, there's access to videos, there is access to an online system where they can use like a tool. So there's a complimentary tool to go along with that. And sometimes just being in the know, right? The FOMO is a big thing, right? Fear of missing out. And so to be an insider and get exclusive content is great. That's only if you have exclusive content. If you don't, then there's no point. Other traditional things with e-commerce is obviously deals, right? But deals that are meaningful to people. So it's like, okay, 10% off your first order, but obviously that can be doctored, right? So people know how to kind of go around those things and unsubscribe. And so you got to always think like, even if you get that email first, if you're not nurturing those people really well, that's not going to be beneficial to you because they're just going to drop off your list. Okay.
This brings up a good follow-up question that I even had, which was when I take a look at the link that we've dropped for people to fill out the survey here for the report, there's one question about what type of offering that you would provide in your ads. And I was thinking about that question and the different types of offering that we could do. So you talked a little bit about the deals as one of them. Could you share a few more examples of some common offerings that performs really well on online advertising?
Yeah. And I would say your offering is really tied into what your customer is experiencing at that moment. So for example, if you're in home services, let's say you're in like plumbing, HVAC, electrical, you do carpets and stuff like that. Those people aren't very patient, right? If you want something done, you don't want it done. Like you don't want to like find out like in 2 or 3 days what's going on. And so sometimes an offering is simply your promise to get back to them in a certain amount of time. So it's like, hey, fill out this form and one of our solutions consultant will be back to you within 3 minutes. And it's like, wow, okay, that's great. Like sign me up. Other offerings is when you have a like a masterclass or course and exclusive access to that course. Other offerings are time or scarcity, right? Where it's like you've got so much time to sign up, or there's only 100 spots, right? When we send out these email campaigns for these webinars, it always fills up pretty quickly. And so we let them know like, hey, seats are limited, first come, first serve within this offering. So we always want to think about what is the person going through at that moment where they're filling out the form, and what is something of value that makes sense for their inquiry. So those are a couple other examples. There was another one that I love this year from one of our clients. where they did tiles for people's homes. So if you think of like floor tiles, backsplash, kitchen, bathroom, etc. And during the pandemic, it was really hard to get into showrooms. And so instead of just giving them a discount off, they gave them a free online design consultation. So they could book a time that a consultant would meet with them on Zoom and take a look at their house and then come back to them with some ideas. So it actually cut down the friction of them having to come into a showroom. It gave them something of value. They were speaking to a designer. And of course, they came back with tiles that they were offering and that they could get shipped to the location. I personally used it myself. I thought it was such a great campaign idea. So I retiled a couple of things. Those are a couple of examples, but I'm always open to seeing what other types of examples gets people to move and perform an action.
Yeah, those are great examples. And it looks like we only have a couple more questions. So I just want to remind, because I see that there's still a large audience size here on the webinar, that if you have questions that are specific to your business or your industry, and you have any questions around the tactics that Daryl shared today, this is a great opportunity to get it at the time that we have. We'll make sure that we ask it live during this webinar. Anas in chat asked about a workflow that you could maybe walk through for consultants. And I imagine that that's probably tying in with the email list campaign. What type of workflow would be a good way to get the most value from those type of campaigns?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Mahfouz? Workflow on email campaigns?
Yeah, the question says what workflow is best for consultants. I imagine that that's from an email campaign standpoint, like what kind of system we can have in place to do constant follow-ups along the way.
Yeah, that's great. So for consultants, I mean, I love to ask a number of other questions, but always find out what is the intent of when somebody signs up for an email, and because you want to deliver based on intent. So if it is getting industry news, then be the best person at providing industry news in a good time. But when you say consultant, I think an individual. When I think individual, I think like a personal relationship. And so personally, I would take a look at doing a little of doing video via email and updates, because if you really get to know the consultant and you're building your expertise through video and industry leadership, then you don't have to send out a lot of just random emails, just giving them one blog after another, but that you're actually providing something that they can kind of watch. If you can send it in words, that's fine. Pictures are better. Video is always best.
That's excellent. And I just took a peek at the back end of the form, and I see that we're getting a lot of submissions. So a lot of reports are on the way. And just want to remind you with the few minutes that we have, if you haven't had the chance yet to click the link on the top in order to get your free report, I'm just going to go ahead and drop it in the chat one more time. That is not the right thing. I should have dropped in chat. There we go. That's better. So I want to finish off with the last question here, which is about the geo-targeting feature on LinkedIn. We know that there's going to be some targeting and privacy concerns that are coming up. Is LinkedIn still going to give us a capability of geo-targeting, and what does that look like?
So yes, it does. When we're talking about geo-targeting concerns, that is based on people opening up emails in different areas, but that doesn't impact the online ads. And so if you're on LinkedIn and you're say, okay, I'm based in the Greater Toronto area, we can still use that data within LinkedIn to go after those professionals in that area, regardless of where they're accessing LinkedIn, where they're opening up the app or anything else like that. So that is continuing. And so remember, it's more about the individual networks having the data and that they can't share with one another. So it's isolated. But if LinkedIn has the data that, you are a certain type of professional, you live in this area, that can be used for advertisers. So Mahfouz, thanks so much for facilitating that Q&A. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just Google Candybox Marketing on YouTube, and you can subscribe there and get access to this video when it comes out and share it. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, with Instagram, or wherever you may find me online. Feel free to send a connection to. We appreciate everybody's attendance here today, and good luck with the tsunami. And hopefully, not a lot of other crazy waves are coming in. But there's no straight lines in nature or business. So, good luck to you guys navigating these times. Thanks so much.